Good day, students. In this workshop, this is going to be a continuation of what we covered in workshop 4. Except in this exercise, you're going to build your topography for your site that you've chosen for Burkhart. Okay, so first you'll need to go to support, files. So please download files. I'm just waiting for the internet. Unfortunately, it has been a bit slow today. Project files, and then please go to Burkhart and download the relevant site information PDF and download the DXF. You can use the TIFF file as well. Just be aware that it's quite a large file, so just be careful. If you are going to use this file, it's going to take a lot of your resources. Please always remember to put these files in a certain location so that if you lose the reference, you can relink them in later. Okay. So if you go to project files and you go to Revit, and you're going to use the same file to start with as we did for workshop 4. Okay. Sorry, the internet is very slow at the moment. My apologies. Sure. Okay. All right. Let me just go back to support. Sure. Okay. Let me just try it in Chrome, Microsoft. Okay, so workshop 4. Okay, so you need to download this exercise 4 file. You remember you need and the families, so you can bring in both of these. So download that and that. You can download it as a zip folder. Okay, I've already done that, and I've also got all the information for the project. Okay, I apologize that my internet, there is a poor internet connection at the moment, so it's very slow to navigate through this information. But in the Burkhart folder is all the information I've given you. So I'm just going to close this for now. Okay, so on my desktop, I've got that exercise file with the families folder. Okay, and I've got the OKU 200. I've downloaded. So get the relevant site for this. I'm just going to use site 1 and Burkhart. Okay, so now that I've got the project open, I'm going to go to site view. Okay, so you'll see everything is as per the last project. So you're going to do some of the steps as per the last object. The only thing we're going to do now in addition is to create another site. So I'm going to duplicate this, duplicate without detailing, duplicate with detailing. Good. So this will be site working, rename. As we did in the past, one's going to be a working view, the other one's going to be on our sheet. So this site, VG, visibility graphics. So if you go to view, and you go to visibility graphics, you make sure that the annotation elevation markers are off. Switch off your elevation markers, we don't need them. Okay, great. Now we've got a survey point and a project base point, so this will start becoming quite important in a minute. I'll explain why. Okay, so we've got a blank project, everything ready to go, site working and a site. Great. So in site working, what we're going to do in site working is we're going to start loading in the correct information that we need to start with. So the first thing I need to do, as per the last workshop, I'm going to go to architecture, sorry, my apologies, insert link CAD. So you want to use a link every time so you can refresh everything, and this is a DXF. And if I go to desktop, workshop 5, desktop, it'll be OK 200, I've got Burkhart. I'm going to switch off correct slightly off axis. Okay, correct, and orientate to view. Those must, but don't switch this off. You want this to be in 3D as well, so you can use the information from the file to generate your topography. And auto internal origin internal, that's fine. You can go auto center to center. This doesn't really matter for this exercise because we're going to move information around in this workshop. Okay, preserve everything, press open. Good. Now, a lot of you in the past would have had issues, and I can see you must always make sure that this is in meters and it's 1. Okay, so if a lot of you make this mistake, so let me just do that again. So insert link CAD, work carpet, it'll keep all the old settings. This must always be meters. So this is very important. Make sure it's meters, press open. Okay, this is a very large file. Now, I know that site, so if I go to VG, if you can't see what things are what I tend to do is I switch off all the information and I start saying, well, actually, I want my site boundary for now. I've got building footprints. I'm going to press apply, press OK. I know that this is my site 1. Okay, so that's site 1. Okay, so I'm going to move the DXF file. Now, generally, these are pinned. When these come in, you'll find that they're pinned. If it moves, it's not pinned, so that's good to know. So I'm going to move this to the right location. Just like that. Good. Then I'm going to pin this layer so it doesn't move around. Okay, so VG, I can bring back all the other layers, imported categories, work carp, I can bring all of these back. Okay, road, good. For now, if you go to 3D view, you should have a 3D topography of the area. Okay, that's important to understand as well, so that's good. Okay, we don't need starting view for now, so starting working is where we're going to do a lot of our nitty-gritty work. Good. Now I'm going to go and find the, sorry, I've just got a lot of these open, so let me just close all of these, close all. So I need to go and find the DXF file. Okay, so desktop, okay, 200. I'm going to go and grab site 1 and I'm going to drag and drop it in. Just like this, you drag and drop it in. Now what's interesting, you'll see that Revit does work out how big this drawing is. So that's interesting. And I'll go 300 dpi. I'm going to press OK. So what this will try and do is it'll try and bring it into the correct scale. Okay, so it'll understand it's bringing in a PDF at a certain scale. Okay, the only downside to doing this is you'll find that sometimes this does get slow. Okay. Working with these images. So I've got this image now. So with my object pinned, it just means that I can't accidentally delete it or move it. I'm going to do the same with the image. I'm going to move the image and put that in the right location as well. Okay, and you can see there is a massive discrepancy between the image and the site information that I brought in. Okay, so it doesn't always work correctly. And I've noticed it's slightly off axis, so I'm going to rotate it as well. So I'm going to say place, rotate, and I'm going to rotate this image. So select your image, the image selected, rotate. You're going to say place. You want to place an origin from which to rotate. I'm going to use my project origin, and I'm going to select a point over here, and I'm going to rotate it back to. Okay, so that's the first step I had to do. The next step I need to do is I need to scale. I need to scale this image to work with my site information, and I know that my site cadastral line, it is in the drawing here, it's below the red line, so I can go back to VG, imported categories, and I'm going to switch off. I just want my site boundaries for now. My site boundary line, I could have also got and said, well, this override it, make it red, which it color was, but I'm going to change the line weight and make it quite heavy, so I can see where it is and make sure that your line weights are on. Okay, so there's that, very easy to see. Then I'm going to select the image again, so select the image. I'm going to use the scale tool now, and I'm going to simply pick. Now, when you're going to use the scale tool, you must say graphical. Remember, numerical, you want it graphical because you're going to use the graphics of the drawing. So I'm going to say from there, that's going to come down to there. Okay, so we've scaled our drawing now. Good. So in VG, imported categories, I can remove the override. Clear overrides. Good. I can switch on cadastral just like that for now. Okay, good. All right, so I've kind of got the project started and going, but now you will notice that the site true north is going to be, so as per the image, I know the image is strictly not 100% correct, but I know that this is correct. And I know that true north is always up. So I'm going to use I'm going to use a reference line. So in architecture, I'm going to use a reference plane to help me sort this out. So I know that this angle, that's true north. Okay. Now with Revit, this is something that I think a lot of you should understand before. In Revit, we've got project north and true north. Okay, so in essence, you would notice that if we carried on working on this project, because we're working at an angle, if I go to ground for example, and I switch this off, I'm just going to hide the layer for now, so I'm just going to hide element. You're going to try and work square. So if I'm going to work detail lines, if I want to try and work, you see Revit likes to work at right angles, vertical, horizontal. Now every view has two options. It's got project north and it's got true north. So Revit allows us to set up our project correctly with true north and project north. Okay, so let's go and see what's going on there. So if we go to manage and we go to location. So let's start at the first place, the best place to start. So the first thing I need to do is I need to determine where my site's located. So I need to go and add where my site's located. So here you can see in the internal mapping, it will come to the true north now. I need to go and find exactly where this is. So what you can do, you can open up Google Maps. So this is quite intuitive. You can open up Google Maps, go to Maps. You can go to Boerkaap. Okay, go to Boerkaap, and now you can go and find the site that you've selected. Okay, so this sometimes takes a bit of time to find out where the site is. Okay, so you just have to look around. I know it was on the street, it was down here. So here is my site over here, and if you just right click anywhere in your view, you see it comes up with these coordinates. So if you right click, so let's say right click on that, because I know more or less that's my boundary. And if you click on that, it'll copy it to keyboard. What's great about this, if I control V now and I go search, you will find that it'll find this information and take me directly to that address. So that is very, very cool to understand. Okay, so I don't need to add any more information than that because it's kind of found my site. Yes, technically the site, you can move it to there a bit, technically. Okay, you can add these dimensions in exactly as they should be. Okay. But we don't have to get this accurate because all that we have to understand, or all you've got to understand, is that this is going to put our project in the right location. So if we do sun analysis, all of those studies, it puts it in the right location. So I'm going to press OK. So this is going to set up my site correctly so that it's located in the right location. Okay, so if you ever go and search and it finds the closest weather reports, etc., etc. Okay, so that's all we need to understand with regards to getting our site in the right location. Good. Now, we now need to go and establish what of these boundaries will become our project north. Not our true north, our project north. Okay, so this is very important to understand. So what I can do, so I know that that's true north. So we can simply use a rotation command, or we can go to architecture. So I'm going to keep this here just so that you understand what is going on and nothing's going to change. Okay, so for architecture, I'm going to create another reference plane. So let's assume that our true north will become, so I'm going to use my pick line tool, will become this line over here. So my pick line tool allowed me to select that boundary line, and that's going to become our new project north. Okay, so now with my project north, so I'm going to say project north and true north. I'm going to leave everything as is. I'm going to go to manage, and I'm going to go to position. So here it says rotate, relocate, rotate true north. So we need to say, yep. Sorry, here it must go to project north, true north. So let's just switch this back to project north. So in additional settings, sorry, coordinates, position, my bad. So here I'm going to go and rotate project north. So you could go and work out the dimensions, but the best way to do this is rotate. You can align to selected panel. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to rotate that to my project north. Press OK. Now we've got project north and we're going to have true north. Now sometimes this works correctly right out the bat and sometimes it doesn't. I can see, that's why I've kept that other line there. So if I go back, so you see the rotated the project north in the wrong direction. So all I have to do again is go to position, rotate project north, and it's going to be counterclockwise 90 degrees. Sorry, my apologies, undo. Position, it'll be rotate clockwise 90. Okay, so press OK. Good. So now we've got everything in the right direction. So now we're going to work in this direction. So this is our project north. Now it doesn't matter what view we go to. Now we can go and alternate between true north and project north. So true north, project north. So this is project north, and you will notice that this, if we go to our survey point, if we click on this, it'll tell us the true direction to true north. Okay, so we work square because it means now if we detail line, now we can work square in our project. Yes, we might have one skew wall. Okay, now you can go and change this later on, but it just has a big impact later on. So you need to decide when you start your project, are you going to use this boundary or are you going to use the street boundary? That you need to decide, because going forward this has a big impact. Okay, so if we go back to true north here, project north, true north, now you would have noticed that these labels have changed, so you're going to have to go and relocate and reorientate them to the correct location. But this is very important to understand, because if you do get this wrong, it causes havoc on your project. Okay, so we've sorted that out. So in my site view, I'm going to change this to project north. So you need to decide on your plan, are you going to show things to true north or project north? Okay, so if I go here, I'm going to say to project north, because I want to work my site plan, I want to show it to project north. Just remember, when you put it on your sheet, the north point will need to orientate to true north. So your true north is this direction here, and hence that's why I've kept it. Okay, so you've got another reference plane here as well. You can give this a name, so you can say N for north, so that I know that's my north direction. So in any plan that I'm working with, I know that is the direction of true north. What's very interesting, if I press tab once or twice, you'll see now that my survey point aligns with my true north. Very important to understand. So that's how you know that things have been changed correctly. Okay, very important. So remember, my survey point, that's correct. Good. Now, the next thing I want to do very quickly, massing in site, remember property lines, create from sketch. So here we're going to quickly go and pick up our site boundaries, snap end, good. All right, we've got our site boundaries. At any point, if you want to stop seeing the information, you can simply just toggle through what you want to see. I want the contours as well for now. Site boundaries, press apply, and press OK. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, that's good for now. So I've got my, I made a mistake. So just be careful when using this information that you snap these things to the right location. Okay, so that must follow your site boundary exactly. Finish. Okay, so we've got our site boundary showing, and it'll be visible in every view, and we've got our contours. The next step we need to do is quickly we need to make our topography. Okay, so we're going to go to massing and site, top solid, create from import. Now, the mistake we made in my last workshop was make sure that the thickness of the slab is at least 1 meter. Revit doesn't like anything below 0, so make your thickness of your finish 1000 just to be safe. Press apply, press OK, and they're going to say create from CAD, select the CAD file, check none, and I'm going to say Z. Press OK. So what it'll try and do, it'll try and create a topography for the whole site. Just remember, this is not exactly what we want, but you could see Revit tried its best to make the topography. Okay. Site working. Good. Now I need to establish, I'm going to go and say edit boundary, edit sketch. I'm going to get rid of the sketch. Okay, I'm going to go back to site working, and I'm going to change site working. I just want to pick like an extent of how big my topography needs to be. So I'm just using some line work around my site to kind of just give me a good enough outline. So I've used the pick line tool. Sorry, this should be rotated to true north or project north, it doesn't matter. Now that I've used the pick line tools for my site boundary, I'm going to select one of them and use the isolate category command. And I'm going to simply trim these. I'm not too worried about the boundaries yet because, and I'm going to say finish command. Okay, reset temporary hide. Good. Now, we end up with that little error again where you've got those site working. I'm just going to orientate this to true north as well, project north. Good. So now in 3D view, you will notice that this worked really well except for those boundary corners again. So we need to select this, go to points. Okay, so go to top view. Now, there was not enough information in this topography, sadly. Okay, so we select this point, 34,000 meters, copy that, 34 meters. I'm going to go and add a point. So add a point, absolute, Control V. Good. So I'm going to add a point. So we're going to snap onto the green, right on the green line on this axis right over there. So that will come up, 34,000, and I'm going to put one more. Okay, 34,000. Sorry, that was a long surface. It should have been absolute. So that was my bad. So now you can see we have to go and add some points to this. So at any point, select those two, that's 34,000. Okay. Okay, there was not enough information in this file. So now you can see they follow along. Okay, so that is quite good to know. What we can also do, at point, you can say snap to XYZ and you'll see it'll snap to this line. So that is quite handy to know. That is very handy to understand. So I'm going to say snap along. Okay, so it's not playing ball. Let's just go back to our site. Good. So we just need to add some more line work. That needs to be, oh, so we've added quite a few there. So that one needs to be 34,000. Great. Okay, so that's working, that's working. I'm going to add this point up, so I'm going to move this point up. So maybe for now, let's go to 3D view again. Let's try and get this view up. Let's try and get it to about 35. So this is going down gradually. Okay, so this is going down. So 34, 33. That's good for now. Okay, so we just need to go and add some more points along the side. This is just, it's a bit of a issue with the latest version of Revit in that respect, because if I go to, good. So I'm going to go and say pick points, add a point, XYZ. So we can only add points on the edge. So that is quite frustrating. So this is 35,000. So we're going to go and add a point. So add point, 35,000. We must say absolute, 35,000. So I'm going to add a point right on the edge. That's good. I'm going to add another one right on the edge. Okay, so these contours are pretty basic. Again, I'm just using my major contours for this. I'm not worrying about the minor contours for this, and I'll show you how to represent that correctly. So I'm going to add another point. So if I just select along there, 36,000, 36,000, I'm going to add one there, and I'm going to add one there. Okay, good. Again, if you hover, that's 37,000, so I'm going to add 1 meter to that, 37,000. I'm going to add one there, I'm going to add one there. Good. Again, I'm going to hover again, that's 38,000, so I'm going to change that to 38,000. Okay. So Revit does help sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. So 38,000, great. Okay. Again, if I hover on this, 39,000. Oh my, 39,000. I made a mistake with that one. So just be careful, but at any point you can go and fix these points. Okay, 39,000, 39,123. Good. Now this point probably be, let's make it 39,500. Good. Great. And then this point, remember this is going to be between those 2 points. So select your topography again, select that point, and that'll be 38,000 for now. But maybe it needs to be higher because this was 39. So if you select there 39, so make it 38,500. So it's between the two, 500. Good. Good. And then this one will be between. So if you if you go to points and you hover, so if you go to add point and you hover, it will give you those 2 dimensions. So if I know that that point, for example, if I go back to modify point, this will be, again, in 3D view, I can just grab that point now and kind of guess it. Okay, so here you can kind of see when things are not working. So 33,000, okay, maybe a little higher. Okay, there we go, that'll work. Alright, so there's my topography working nicely. So my topography is following the shape correctly. Good. If there are little gaps, it's very easy to go and fix it. So if you go to site again, so there's a slight issue with one of those points. I'm going to go to modify. So there wasn't a point there, so I need to add a point. Just hover there, 36,000, 36,000. I'm going to put another point along there just so that the contours work better. Okay, good. It's because of this point over here. So if it does start to deviate, okay. Now, for now, I'm just going to show the major contours. So an edit of the settings, so display. For now, I'm going to leave the minors at 500 mil, but what you can do in your graphic settings, because remember the site will go in our sheet, so in VG, I can go to VG and I can go to site settings, top of solid. Okay, so my minor contours, I can switch off for our secondaries, and I'm going to override these, and I'm just going to give them a gray line for now, so gray. So I'm just overriding these to be good. So this will give me my contour lines, it'll give me my topography outline. Okay, so you can see now that I've built my site. I've got enough information and context around my site. Okay, if I go back to site working, okay, great. So you can see the reason why we can't see the information below is because my topography sits above the information below. You can go and override the graphics by element, and you can change the transparency. So you can play with the transparency. So you can see information below. Just if you're going to print this, you might have to print it differently as. Okay, so you can use this override tool to see the information below. Okay, so that's quite handy. Alright, so we've made quite a bit of progress, but we do have an issue still. This project, if we go to a section and we cut through the site, you will notice that the problem that we are going to have is that this is very high above sea level. Okay, let me just go to 3D view. This will make more sense in 3D view. So in 3D view, if we go to our origin, so this is in the wrong place. Here's our site information way below there. Here's our project 0 or ground floor. And so in theory, you do not want to work like this. You actually want to move all this information down, and this is where, if we go to VG, we go to site settings, and we switch on our survey point and project base point. Okay, so this is where we're going to have to start using our survey point and project base points. If you tab on these two objects, so let me just isolate them as well. So let me isolate those elements as well. Isolate element. Okay, so the circle is our project base point, and if we tab twice, we've got a survey point. Now, if I move my survey point down, you'll see that this will start referencing my elevation. If I make it 2,000, let's make it 10,000 for example, you will notice, undo. Okay, so the more I move this around, the more that this will change the elevation. Okay, so you'll see the more that I'm moving this around, this keeps changing. If I make it 0, everything realigns. So your survey point is the point where you want to set that to project north. Okay, so let's go to site again and go to section. because we're not seeing everything in our section. So let's scroll down, because technically here's our project site and our levels are there as well. Okay, so I was going to switch it in the opposite direction so we can see. So here's our levels, ground floor and zip. Okay, so what we typically do is we find a level that will become our data. We can readjust this later on, but you just have to understand that we're going to pick a level that will become our data, and typically that's our ground floor. So if you find a level, so you can see what Revit does for us nicely is we can see the section through our topography, but we need to now move this information down. So we need to move the DWG file, but your DWG file is pinned at the moment. But what it does give us, it gives us, if I go down to here, you can see that's 32 meters, 35 meters. Okay, so I'm going to move everything down by 35 meters. I'm going to use my 35 as my data. I'm going to use this level as my data, because if we go back to site working and we go to 35 meters, 36 or 35, 36, I'm going to make it 36 meters because it's somewhere in the middle of the site. So let's make 36 meters our data. Great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the DX. So let's grab the DXF. So remove that, grab the DXF, unpin it, and I'm going to grab the topography. I'm going to grab both of these, just like this. And I'm going to move everything down. So move it down vertically, doesn't matter where from, vertically. I'm going to move this down 35,000. Now in theory, our datum, level 0 and this datum will be identical now. But you'll see that this is still showing, so our levels can represent, so this is very interesting. You don't have to worry about this too much for now, but you can specify what point. So if we go and say you want to specify your survey point or base point, okay, so let's just make sure, let's go to 3D view, let's just reset our project base point back to 0. 3D view, let's just do it on 3D view, so I'm going to move this. So my project base point, I'm going to say move to internal origin, and I'm going to go and say, that's very important, I'm going to move that to 0. So let's go to VG, I'm going to go and say project internal origin. Okay, so let's just make sure everything is back to 0. And go to VG, and I'm going to switch on our internal origin as well. So let's just say reset. So I'm going to go to VG for now, all off. Go to site, I just want to explain this better. Site, switch this on, internal origin, survey point, project base point. Press apply, press OK. Okay, so we need to move this to internal origin, move to internal origin. That's very important. That needs to be in the right location. Now, this level. So you'll find that this is representing our innovation. So let me reset this to 0. So let's go back. So our survey point needs to move back up to 0. Okay. You can just use the align command. Okay, so now it's back aligned. So now, our survey point needs to move we need to move our survey point down. So tab, okay. Go to site again, and I'm going to go to section again. Now, we're going to have VG, switch on our site information, site. I just want my survey point now, survey point, and I'm going to switch on my survey point, press apply, press OK. Good. So my survey point, this point needs to move down, so my survey point will move down, so move 35,000. So our survey point should be down here now, and it should be aligned with the DXF file. Now what's interesting is our levels. At any point we can now switch between survey point, 35 meters above sea level, or we can switch them back to project base point. Okay, so This is very important to use, especially if you're going to use your topography within your building site. It's important to set this up. There are other methods in which you don't have to go through this whole process, but for your projects, this is how you would want it to work. But now you can focus in section, you can focus just on the information that you need. So if I go back to site and I select my project base points, so tab, you'll see that this level, this is telling me that my project base point that's the sea level. So my datum of my level 0 or ground floor, level 0, this level above sea level is 35 meters. Okay, very important to understand. Site, great. So back in the site view, now that we've got a lot of this information, the next step we're going to do, now that we've got our project set up, we're not going to worry about the elevation markers for now, but they're very easy to readjust. You can select your elevation marker and you can rotate them, and you'll see it will start snapping square. So you can rotate these to snap square. Your elevation markers, just remember that because we've set our project north, that's the reason why they're behaving like this, but we readjust them to be square with north, south, east, west. Okay, we're not going to worry about them for now. We'll move them to the right location, but at any point you can move these. That's the marker. If you want to see your elevations, you're going to move this information to the right location. So this is just a bit of housework that you've got to do with regards to your project. Okay, then these you can move separately. Okay, it doesn't affect the marker itself. Okay, it doesn't affect the marker itself. These you just move into a location. Okay, good. Okay, but they're irrelevant for now. It's only when we start setting up elevations and sections. Okay, now we've got everything set up correctly. The only additional information we're going to start adding, again, as per the previous example, so this is going to be the additional information that you're going to add, so like the road center lines. Okay, so I can go to VG, imported categories, I want to see the road center lines, press OK. So now I can go and start adding, so annotation, detail lines. You can add in the trees if there's any trees on your site, so you can go and add trees as per the last exercise. So I'm just going to open up the last example in Teams. Okay, I have to open it this way because unfortunately it's quite slow on my machine. So let's just go to Teams quickly. I just want to open up the example. So that example that you got for workshop 4, we're going to use the same example. Okay, as you can see, the internet again is very slow. I'm wondering if this is Teams, so I'm just going to pause it for a second until it loads. Okay, so in a nutshell, you're going to reproduce your own site with the same level of detail as per exercise 4. Okay, you can see you've got all the information here that you need. So you're going to use the information from exercise 4. You're going to reproduce your site with the site boundary lines. You won't have building lines in this instance because we're not going to allow that limitation. But remember, you'll need a building line in certain projects. It'll depend. But for now, we want your site boundaries, we want all the markers, we want the contour information, we want the street names, etc., etc. Okay, so go and draft. We're going to draw the roads, for example. So with the aerial imagery, I can hide the site information for now, so hide element. So architecture, so an annotation, detail line, go and find the right line weights for roads, so line road markings or roads, etc. So for now, I'm just going to use line weight 2. I'm going to use a pick line tool, so here's the road center lines, pick line tool. So there's the road center line, good. Now we do have an issue in the sense that the CAD information received is not exactly accurate, so I'm going to grab both the bits of line work, so control, tab until you select all of them. Okay, I see they're not connected, so there's a slight glitch there as well. Okay, that should have been connected, but anyway, so let's just get rid of that for now. Take this line through, I'm going to snap nearest onto that line. Okay, this will be our road center line, so we can change this line to road markings dashed. With this line selected, I can offset this line, so I can use the offset command. I'm going to first move the line a bit. So I'm just creating some quick contextual information. So nudge that down. We're going to make a basement as well. Okay, so a typical road, you can see we have a center line for the road. We've got some parking bays and loading bays. We've got some parking bays there. So we just need to add that information very quickly. I'm going to hide the image very quickly, hide element. So I know that this is my correct line. Good. So I'm going to use a typical road sometimes can be 6 meters. I measured it quickly off the map, but it's about 6 meters. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make it 3 meters in every direction, so 3,000. So here I'm just going to try and reproduce the road as quickly as I can. Then again, I know that a parking bay is 2,500. So then I've got a parking bays there, and I've got a loading bay in this direction there. So just get rid of, which one was it now? I think it was that one. Where was the road center line? So let's undo my offset in the wrong direction. So that was my road center line. I suppose it's this one here, DI. Just make sure that's 3 meters. Good. Offset, I would have kept the last setting. I'm going to go in that direction there. So we've got some loading bays there. We've got a road center line. Okay, that's great. Go back. So reset temporary hide. Let's just hide the topography for now. So hide that. VG in your working view, just remember you can go to top of solids, hide it here, top of solid, press apply, press OK. Good. Now, this will become our curb line. So this will become, if you don't have a curb line, you can make your own line types. Okay, you can make your own line types, but I'll know that that's going to be, so this is an important line. So let's make that 3 because that becomes our road line. You can leave this dash for now because this is where the parking is going to be. So here's your parking, here's your road center line. Here you got your loading bays, and again this becomes your curb line. So this is going to become line weight 3 for now. Good. Then I do have a curb, so I'm going to go and say offset. My curb is 150. From there, from this line, so 150, that'll be my curb line, and that'll be my curb line. Now this bit of line work is generally a bit thinner, so it'll be line weight 2, and you'll see how the line weight will start playing because that's your curb line in essence. We try and pick that up, it's an important line. Good. So now we've got our road center lines. So if we go to site now, we don't have that information. So let me select all of this information just like that. And again, I'm going to go and say isolate category, isolate category. I'm going to make all of this a group. I'm going to make all of this a group. I'm going to call it roads, existing roads. Copy this, copy, go back to site, paste, align to current view. So aligned to current view, aligned to same place. So just remember I've copied it over the same one twice. Undo. Okay, I hadn't. Good. Now we can start introducing some crops because this is all we want to see on our sheet. Pull this down. This is the extent of my information, so I can start cropping the view as well. So activate crop. I can switch this off for now. Just remember I'm cropping my view. So here's my road information. I've got some parking. I've got a road. Here's my site information. I can even start documenting imported categories. I can start showing where the building our footprints are. So now I can go and start documenting where the neighboring buildings are. I can start extruding them as masses maybe. Okay, so here we can see we've got some site information on this site, so we might have to show that's demolished. But for now, for the site, I'm just going to go VG and switch this off for now. Imported categories. Okay, so I've got my site boundary line, I've got this cadastral information, I've got my contours. Okay, very, very nice. I might trim this a bit more so that that's what I'm looking for. Just like that. So I'm going to trim, don't move the whole thing, trim it like that, trim this back down. Good. Back to there. Just like that. So I've got my street, got my contours, I've got my site boundary. We do generally show the neighboring boundaries for now, but for now just focus on your site. Good. I can even bring this back a bit more. Good. So go and label the contours as per the example. Please go and follow this example and add the relevant information. Okay, good. Alright, so now we're in the home stretch. If we go to our section, we can delete that in a minute. Here's our section. Everything is starting to tie up. Remember, these work the same, so we can focus on what we're trying to see. We've got a level 1 and level 0. Now what we need to do is add a basement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this level. I'm going to copy this level down. Or just go and add a new level. So I'm going to go to architecture, I'm going to add a basement level. So I'm going to say level, and I'm going to go from there to there. I'm going to make this level basement, and I'm going to change its elevation to 2,800 or 2,500. However deep your basement needs to be, go and do so. Okay, I can extend this information, so I can extend these grids. There's a technique where we do this later on, where we extend this information. So that'll be my basement, 2,500. Now you can start seeing, make sure that that works with my, so that's level, so we're going to change this to level as well. Project datum, project levels, there we go. So minus 2,500, 0, because remember this is your datum. Good. And this will become basement. Now make sure that when you do rename this, that you rename it for all the, so Control C. Good. Now there are no levels associated to this. So in view, plan views, floor plan views, you need to add basement. Good. It's added a basement level for us now as well. If we go back to section, you'll notice that these markers are blue now. If they're solid, they do not have a level, so then you have to go and add a level. Okay. So just be careful with that. I've noticed sometimes it'll make a level. So if the head has a view, so if I delete the view, delete view, you'll notice that this goes dark again and these are blue. So remember, levels, if they don't have a view by default, you can add a view for them. So if you go to architecture, if you go to view, floor plan view, floor plan, and you're going to go and add a basement. Okay, good. With our basement added, we can go to VG, make sure imported categories is off, because we're going to focus. All we need to do now is create architecture component. We're going to make a floor, so we're going to make an architectural floor. Make sure that you use a 125 surface bed. Okay, typically you could also use, you can make another floor type which is called fill. So maybe let's do that. So let's go edit type, and we're going to say duplicate. I'm going to make this 150 mil, so 150. I'm going to say compact fill or fill, doesn't matter. Fill, press OK. Good. Fill, just like that. Good. So with this information changed, make sure that this becomes 150. Change this to, and then we can just change this to ground, gravel. Okay. NGL. Let's see if there's an NGL, natural ground line. Stone. Let's see if there's maybe a stone layer. If there's no material to use, you can simply go and look at this information. So let's type in stone. So here we've got a lot of different compact fills or stone, generic stone. Okay, so if we go to stone itself, we can just say rubble. So we can use that, add it to, so add rubble to materials, and then I'll just simply add that as my material. Press OK. It's not important for now. All you need to understand is that if you do cut through this, that it represents correctly. But for now, we're just focusing on the plan. Rubble, press OK. Good. Now, press apply, press OK. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create our basement. So I'm going to use the pick line tool. So I'm going to use the boundaries of that. And then I'm going to draw a bit of line work. So I want my extent of my basement to do something like that, for example. So I've created a slab, finish. Good, and I'll go through sections. Now in section, we've got a basement, we've got a basement slab, but we've got topography. Now, in order for us to cut a basement into our topography, so let's just say reset. So in 3D view, VG, all on, all visible, press apply, press OK. VG, import a graphic, switch off work op. Remember, if you don't need that information more, manage, you can go and switch off these links, imported links. You can go and switch off the workcop DXF. You can unload it if you don't want to see it in the project file anymore, if it's starting to get quite annoying. Okay, but we'll do that in a second. Okay, now we can go to wireframe mode. Okay, so now we can see our topography and our basement together. So what we need to do now is select our topography, and we need to go and say excavate, excavate, and you're going to pick the slab. So what this will do, it'll cut the topography to suit our needs. So in essence, you've cut yourself a basement. You've cut a basement into your topography. Great. So if we go back to site again, you will notice now that we have the site boundary lines. Now, we do have a problem when it comes to these, how these represent, because you'll notice that technically this disappears. So what we probably have to go and do is we're going to have to go and redocument these lines as drafting items. Okay, so switch off this for now. So basically, this is a bit of a downside to Revit. So sometimes you're going to go and trace. So I actually create, so I'm going to go to annotate, annotate. It doesn't matter where this goes through, but I'm going to use this now. So I'm going to go back to site working. I'll explain why. Reset temporary hide, and I'm going to go and isolate just this object. Isolate element, isolate element. I'm going to go to VG, import graphics. I'm not going to switch off everything. I'm just going to show Z and my site boundary. Press apply, press OK. Good. Now, if I'm going to go, the problem is I need to reproduce this information. So architecture, annotate, detail light. I'm going to go and find my, so you need to make some layers here that work correctly as per my last example. So for now I'm going to make them, so I'm going to go to collaborate, massing and site, sorry, manage, additional settings, line types. So I'm going to go to line styles. I'm going to add some new line styles here. So I'm going to go to new, I'm going to go to contours, major, press OK. I'm going to make this gray, and I'm going to make this dashed, -2 meters. Press apply, just like that. So make sure that that matches the line weights. Press apply, press OK. Good. Now I'm going to go and say detail line. I'm going to go and use the quick line tool. So if I press once, you'll see now that it'll trace this information for me. I've used the wrong layer for now, but that's fine. Good. I just want to use this information. So I'm going to go to VG, switch off my importer categories, press apply, press OK. Good. Select this information just like this, and I'm going to change it to contours. Okay, now I'm going to bring back VG, reset temporary hide. Okay, so now we've got our extents. I'm going to put these in a group. Right click, select all instances in view, select all instances in view. I'm going to make them a group. So there's enough information here, so I'm going to make them a group. I'm going to say contours, contours. EX existing. Good. I can move this now to my project base point, so that's important, so that we know if we're going to move this stuff around, we know it's always going to be in the right location. I'm going to copy this information, copy, go back to site and paste, aligned to current view. Good. So now we should have our contour information above. Okay, I did make a slight mistake on my contours. I maybe want to up the line weight of these to line weight 5. Okay, so this I'm going to go and say manage line types. I'm going to go additional settings, line styles. Okay, so in my previous video I did a lot of this already, so just remember you might have to do the same thing. But good, this is good to understand that you need to practice this, so make that 5. And I'm going to change this name. So I'm going to say rename, I'm going to change that 5. Just so that it goes to the right category. Press apply, press apply, press OK. Good. So now existing and pros, because technically you want to show that. I tend to hide the topography on this top of solids, but for now this will work fine. It kind of lines up. So in VG, top or solid, we can hide it for the time being because it's done its job. Okay, we can go and edit this, say edit boundary. We can go and switch this off for the time being. Switch this off. I just want to edit this information. So edit crop. I don't need all that information anymore. Okay, it's just where they've, so I don't need that. That one I'll need, that one I'll need. Good, just like that, finished. Okay, so I'm not too worried about the extent of it because my crop does a lot of that for me. I can delete my section now. I don't need my section anymore. Good, so I've got good information now. Go and add the rest of the information. The only thing that I would like you to go and add is DI. I want the dimension. So from there to the site boundary, so you might have to tab a couple times. So from there to there. Good. So I just want you to give me some additional information. Just make sure that you've used the right dimension as per example. So match properties, that and that. Good. Okay, remember to move your dimensions below the marker and below the marker. Good. And then you can move it tight to the boundary. Put your notes on site boundary lines. You can start adding more information. But what I want all of you to take away from this example is that you've started building a topography. You don't need the basement for the moment, but at least for now, because you're going to have to do a lot of the work in this file, get your project set up correctly. There is time to fix it later on, but just try and build your topography as per my example. Then once all of this is correct, go and set up your sheet again. So put this on your sheet, so place view and sheet. Okay, so go and grab your site, put it on your sheet. Make sure that you set this information up as per exercise 4. No title, title with lines. You're going to say title with lines, so select this. Sorry, this does get in the way. Title, no line. And make sure that you set this up correctly. Okay, good. So start creating your site. Remember, this is going to incorporate all your other drawings. So this will become the start for your project. Okay, for your construction project going forward. Alright, I hope this helps. Remember, you need to make your drawing look as per this. You need to put the project site, so it'll be site 1, etc., etc. Good.